Nevada and Placer counties.
Good evening, and welcome to another edition of Nevada County Interviews. I'm your host, Paul Minicucci. And tonight, we're going to be talking about a very promising event in the county coming up called a job fair and job development forum. And we're going to be talking about economic development in Nevada County. With me are my guests, Ed Bodette and April Zimino. Thanks for coming.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Now, you both work for the same company, and before we talk about that, let's find out a little bit about each of you. Ed, where were you born and raised?
I was born and raised in Canada.
Yeah? Tell me about that.
Well, I thought from a young boy I wanted to be a farmer, and my whole life was pointed to that, and I was for a while, and at some point the world of business intrigued me and caught my eye, and here I am 20-some years later in the United States living where I want to live.
Mm-hmm. Now, there's, of course, a cliche that all Canadians are hockey players. You wouldn't be a hockey player, would you?
Maybe just a couple times a week, yeah. Well, at least I like to think I'm a hockey player.
Right. And so hockey, of course, is a big sport up in Canada, as it is here, too.
Some say it's a religion.
Yeah. So, did you go to college?
Yeah.
Where?
University of Saskatchewan.
Saskatchewan. Okay, and on the plains.
Yeah. There was a couple trees where I lived.
Yeah.
Only a couple.
Yeah, Neil Young sings about that area quite a bit. So, well, welcome to the show.
Thanks.
April, tell us about yourself.
I was born and raised in Oregon and then moved to California to go to school at UC Davis, and I've been down here since 2000 and never going back. I love to visit, but I love this area, and I've lived in Davis, Sacramento, Roseville, and we just keep inching up
Next year you'll be in
the
Tahoe.
corridor. Yeah, I don't know. I think Nevada City's perfect. So
Go Aggies.
yes, go Ags. Yes.
So now, Ed, you didn't think when you were growing up that you would be in the position you're in, and in fact, you have an interesting story about how you became part of the company you're with, Biotechnology Calendar.
Biotechnology Calendar. You're exactly right. Again, as a kid, I thought I was going to be a farmer, and life changed, and I became deeply embedded and involved in the finance industry. And through some turns in the economy that we've gone through in our country in the last few years, I'm not in finance anymore, and wasn't quite sure what direction I was going to find here in Nevada County. I knew I wanted to be in Nevada County, and even potentially thought that I was going to have to work outside of Nevada County and yet live here when I found Biotechnology Calendar at a job fair.
Right. And so we know job fairs work, at least for you.
Absolutely.
Now, April, what was your major?
I was a design and communication double major.
Right, and so you're sort of in the communications field.
Yes, and a little bit of design. We have an in-house graphic artist. She does all of our graphics, web, everything. So still involved in that.
Well, great.
Definitely.
So Biotechnology Calendar at BCI Events is a homegrown Nevada County business.
Absolutely. Started by our owners 18 plus years ago here locally.
Right. Not a lot of people know about this organization in the county, I don't think. I didn't, so, it's an education for me. So basically you guys, at the core of your business, are sort of event planners for scientists in matching scientists to products, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. We bring the technology, the updates, the learning, everything that a scientist needs to do what they do, we bring that information to them through bringing the vendors, et cetera, the providers of those product services, et cetera, to them so that they can, stay focused on what they're doing and maybe speed things up.
Right. Now, in April, we were talking off camera a little bit about, I asked the question of April, why not in engineers or other kinds of technical folks, and you had a pretty good answer.
One thing that's unique about the life science research community, especially in the basic level, so this is where basically things that end up being part of drug discovery later are it's the beginning level. So people are using products over and over. There's a lot of consumables, disposables, so there are actual physical things that are used that are bought, used, and need to be replaced. So
Right.
There's a lot of tangible products that people like to come and they want to test the pipette. Does the pipette go like this or like this? So our product shows show a lot to the life science researcher versus engineers or physics research, more of the hard sciences. There's less of a tangible product to see.
Right.
It's more on the computer or
Right.
in
Intellectual
large,
property.
in large rooms
Right.
where they have one piece of equipment versus small things that are used on the bench.
And so you have told me something like 70 events a year that you do here and the rest of around the country?
Absolutely. The company is growing, and this year, for our 2012 calendar, there are just over 70 events planned, and we intend to continue to grow that.
And how big are these events?
The events can range in size depending on the size of the research facilities that we're at, whether it's on a university campus or a pharmaceutical company, et cetera. They can be small size events where we're seeing 50, 70, 90, 100 scientists, all the way up to 700 plus scientists that come out to one of our events.
Mm-hmm. And you told me you had 18 employees at your company?
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
Yeah,
So-
and we have interns, so we always have kind of a
So
few.
it's a pretty
that
good
come and
sized
go.
company, at least for standards here in Nevada County.
Yeah, and the truth is, we have those 18 employees here locally. At our events, we're also hiring temporary help to make the event run smoothly.
So what's the biggest event you guys do?
UCLA and San Diego,
Yeah.
twice a year. So each event is held biannually.
So do you consider your clients, you have a number of clients, right? I mean, you have university professors and researchers, and you have companies that produce equipment and scientific technology.
Absolutely, we do have two customers. One is the actual scientists that will come out to our show to see what's at the show, and the other side is the actual vendors, whether it's be consumable or collateral equipment or service. So that side of it is our customer as well. That is the exhibitor.
Right. So one of the events that I mentioned coming up, and we have a shot over my shoulder of the brochure, is the Job Fair and Job Development Forum, and it's going to be held Thursday, September 22nd, from 12 to 5, and then we have a very special evening event. So let's talk first about the Job Fair and the Job Development Forum. What are the pieces of the Job Fair? How's that work?
Well, there's actually three components to our day, and the first and the primary component for our day is the job fair itself. Much like other job fairs or something that you'd expect as a typical job fair, we are going to have a full auditorium at the Vets Hall of companies that are going to be presenting and looking for employees. And we're going to be inviting the job seekers to come down and put their best foot forward in a face-to-face meeting with employers, and hopefully try to, as the phrase keeps coming up, matchmake the employment needs of the employers with the skills that we have in our county. Our county is rich on talent.
Right. And highly technology-driven and specialized people who are operating at a very high level, but they may be harder to place in a way, right? And
Yeah, there's really some interesting skill sets. Like, for example, myself, I didn't think that I was going to find a place to use my skill sets, my experience in our county, and it wasn't until the job fair that I found out that, there is that opportunity here.
Now, April, you and I were talking a little bit about the role technology plays in all this, and as a communications major, that's a good fit for you, right, to be in event planning and marketing skills. So tell me how technology impacts the business you guys have.
Technology is very important to us because what we're finding obviously more and more is, people are online. So we do a full print campaign, and then we also do, we have an extensive blog updated daily for the research community. We also use technology to reach out to people who have come to the shows before. So it's definitely a key part, and with our companies, they look to us as the leader in the industry, and they want to see what we're doing in terms of reaching their audience. So they kind of use us to get to their customer.
All right. And unfortunately, Gil Matthew was not able to make it here today, but, Gil was the former president, I guess is what it's called, of the ERC. Tell us a little bit about your partners in the county. You have ERC, you've got the one-stop shop.
The One-Stop Career Center, yeah.
Career Center. How do they partner with BCI?
Well, one of the things we did in master planning this event, basically, and that's our skill set at Biotechnology Calendar, BCI events, is master planning events. We decided that what we really needed to do with this job fair is help create a groundswell from our community to get more people placed. Right. And so, obviously our economy is hurting here locally, and we can't simply just sit and wait for a magic wand to happen from the federal government of fixing it. Right. So we put together this route and this event with a grassroots effort of trying to heal our local economy. So we went looking for partners that we thought would be interested, involved, or had potential to help us build that groundswell. Right.
And it's called Healing Our Economy One Job at a Time. And it reminds me of the parable about the young boy who's on the beach throwing the starfish in the ocean. And the guy comes up to him and he says, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm saving the starfish." He said, "Look at that, there are thousands of starfish, on the beach here. How do you think you're going to make a difference?" And he threw a fish back in the water. He said, "I made a difference to that one."
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you're talking about here, right? I mean, sometimes it is a question of not trying to place 100 people randomly, but trying to find the right match between people with high skills and companies who need those skills.
Absolutely, and that's going to be true at our job fair. We're going to be having employers that are going to be looking from everything to highly skilled jobs all the way down to entry-level jobs. Do we have any ability to predict what the impact of our event is going to have on our economy? No, but for the ones that do find that position, how can we measure what we've done to help them actually?
Right. And a lot of people come to this county without jobs because they love the place, I mean, what's not to love about Nevada County? And then once they're up here, it becomes a little bit more difficult finding that job. But it's kind of interesting because it's not necessarily the case where the jobs follow the people in a way that people come up here and then you have to batch them up. So it's a little bit more difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, and actually that leads me to, your point is exactly right. Many people come to our community because they want to live here and look around once they've made that decision or in that commitment level to see if they can find something. But there's another part of that as well, in that as our companies in our community are trying to hire the higher level talent, and there are going to be cases where that higher level talent doesn't or isn't in our community. Well, they may have to recruit somebody in. For example, doctors, surgeons at our hospitals. Right. One of the challenges they have in recruiting those people is, what do we have in our community that's available for their spouse to work at?
Yeah, exactly.
So we have to look at all the different facets in helping to try to put this event together.
Right. Now, April, you have listed some of the speakers who are going to come here. We have Robert Bergman, Nevada City Mayor, and Tom France, CAO of Huntington Mechanical, Senator LaMalfa, and Assemblyman Logue. Tell us a little bit about how you guys decided on these people. Why decision makers?
What we wanted to do is to gather a panel of people who each have both a stake in, kind of the local area, who are concerned about jobs, as well as the next step to kind of economic recovery. So we tried to get a mix of local business people as well as politicians to reach out both to the companies who are there as well as the job seekers. So the discussion will be peppered throughout the day at certain times where people can stop and listen to the speaker. We wanted to make it very relevant to everyone who was coming. So we gathered them so they would address kind of the broad audience, take questions. And, a lot of people are looking to politicians. This would be a chance where they can engage with them as well as hear maybe some plans they're not aware of.
Right, and try to use what money we have, stimulus wisely. Now, I want to let people know at home that NCTV is going to be covering this event, and so look forward to seeing in some future point a show about the event, because I think it's important. And we've been trying to have a relationship with ERC. In fact, Gail Matthew put us in touch with some of the high-tech companies that we have in town, Grass Valley Group, where we're going to be moving soon. Ensemble, AJA, Telestream, and some of the other companies, because we feel that this is Video Valley. We're a digital media company, so we need to be in closer contact with our industry, as it were, a home-based industry. So we're always wanting to be involved. Whatever raises that tide raises our ship too. So
definitely,
we want to be partners now, because sometimes the media doesn't play as big a part in this as I think they ought to. And not having a lot of local media, it's a difficult chore. So we're going to help promote the event. So now let's talk a little bit about the nature of the economic circumstances here. Off camera, Ed, you were talking about a job report that you just saw. You want to give us some of the highlights about where we're at in Nevada County?
Absolutely. I mean, the report that we were discussing was the jobs report from July for the state of California, as well as how it impacts our county. There's some great news. There are in many different slices of that pie, Nevada County's in better shape than many in the state of California. And there are some cases where we've got some concern. Do we have reason to be optimistic here in Nevada County? Yeah. Does that feed all of our families in the very short term? No. There's a lot of people in our county that are currently unemployed and would love to be working. There's segments within that present different levels of challenge. For example, the age group 21 to 30, completely different set of challenges than, say, the age group I fall into, 41 to 50, and even older. There's definitely curves within that where the numbers are higher or lower, and we have to try. And that was back to April's comment about the selection of speakers. We tried to put together as many people as we possibly could that we could potentially create some conversations or dialogues or stimulus or catalyst to make the 1 + 1 = 3 equations to help any potential segment here.
Right. For example, you have Stephanie Ortiz from Sierra College, and Sierra College is a great partner in putting together programs that really take a person right into a job out of a 2-year college. So they're a great partner in this county. Yeah,
and in preparing for this, I've had conversations where we have Tom France, who you've mentioned, from the CEO of Huntington Mechanical Laboratories, who moved his business to our county last year. She right away jumped in and is helping to put together programs where we can get some of our people trained to step up and take the jobs that company provides. She's been working with Keone Allen, Sierra Foothills Construction, to help mold some of our people to train them and get them ready for those jobs. Sierra College is a great partner in our community. They're really responsive. But anytime we can get everybody or as many people, many of our business owners and business leaders together to try to leverage development and change, we should.
Right. And I know in a lot of sectors, people in the business sector are sitting on a lot of cash because some people are afraid to invest right now, in expansion. because they don't want to get outside ahead of the curve. So it is a kind of environment where you really need to put some stimulus into it, something like a job fair where you kind of, egg people on. You know?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, one of the things that April and I have been involved in getting companies to come out and participate in the job fairs. There's been companies that I've spoken to and we've spoken to that have been very frank and said, you know what, yes, we're looking at potentially hiring, and that may be in January or in the spring. We're doing what we can to twist their arm behind the scenes, so to speak, to say, you know what, we have a lot of talent. Come out and look at the talent now,
right,
just in case you find that right person to bring aboard 6 months earlier, 4 months earlier.
Right.
That can only help all of us.
Right. Now, one of the parts of the so we talked about the job development forum. Tell me about the other two parts, because I want to get to a discussion about a very special guest that you have coming in.
Absolutely. Well, the
what
Job
is it?
Development Forum is the second part.
Yeah.
The third part is the Evening of Innovation, and this is an evening designed. We, at the beginning of this, actually used the term mixer, and this evolved into something that we think is more than a mixer. What we wanted to do was get as many business owners, business leaders, managers, people interested in business together as we possibly could to stimulate change and development. I went, I guess, to the well. I used to work for a guy that happens to be revered in our country by many people, Wall Street and Wall Street companies, for his ability to affect innovation in business. Mm-hmm. And not just talk about it, but actually make it in tangible steps. We've been talking to him about working with us on the biotechnology calendar side of events.
Right.
But we simply asked him if he would come.
His name is David Murray.
Right, David Murray. We asked him if he would come here and speak to our local businesses on the chance that some of our local businesses could find or unlock their own ability to innovate and change and develop, so that hopefully we can affect, as we said, a greater change.
Now, David has written one book that's very well known called Borrowing Brilliance. I think we have a picture of it somewhere. Tell us about that book. What's the thesis there?
That's his book, his first book that came out in 2009, and has in fact made tangible changes in our country and some of the major businesses, including the U.S. Navy. He basically takes what business has done traditionally on innovation and actually you'll read about it in the book, but he took the concept of innovation and put it into steps to make it tangible so that he could help take people. There are people that are naturally innovative on how their mind works, and there are business owners that aren't naturally innovative. And he puts this into simple 6 steps, which is actually kind of 5 simple steps that if you use this, you will be able to integrate innovation in a much more effective way in your business and actually in your personal life.
Do you know what the term borrowing brilliance refers to?
It's actually building great ideas on the ideas of others.
Right.
But taking great ideas and borrowing their brilliance to make them, again, a 1 + 1 = 3 equation.
And he talks a lot about adaptation and the ability of a company to both innovate and adapt, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then, really exciting is we're going to be, you said, the first people in the United States to be able to unveil the new book.
Absolutely. Dave's new book, Plan B, and it's a great book on adapting to change, and so incredibly pertinent in the timing of the release of this book. It's actually going to be released next week, and yes, Paul, you get to be the one to talk about it in the media first.
Right, and Plan B, I think, just perusing it real quickly, talks a little bit about sort of how you can make lemonade out of lemon, that you can take stuff that apparently is a failure, find something that was in the crux of that, and actually make it Plan B, and make it an effective part of your business strategy.
Absolutely. Plan B, I mean, it is exactly that. Most people, when they start a business, have their plan and their business plan on what they're going to do. And change happens. Plan B is how to make your next level of planning even more effective than the first. Mm-hmm. And what better timing during the down economy for this to come out?
Because we're gonna come out of this recession through our technology, through our change, through our innovation. That's what America does. So, April, how are we promoting Mr. Murray? I mean, what are we doing?
What we have done, we are working with the Nevada County Chambers, so all the different chambers of commerce, and inviting business owners. We're inviting people that we know. We'd like to extend an invitation out to anyone who would like to come, whether you're an individual, business manager, business owner. It's, like Ed mentioned, it's from how can you reinvent yourself all the way to how can you change your department, your team, your business. So we're really trying to get it out both online.
So folks at home, if you have a business and you want to learn how to innovate, here's one of the world's experts going to be right here in Nevada County. And hopefully we're going to be making Dave's presentation a part of what we do as covering the event. So this is the kind of thing that we need to do in Nevada County. We're blessed being in Northern California, have people so close. And you mentioned that Dave lives up here.
Dave lives near here. He lives up in Tahoe himself, and he's always traveling, et cetera, around the world. But his home base is relatively close to us. It made it convenient, especially in the week when he's introducing his new book. I mean, he's going to be doing the media tour of the New York and the I guess business medias, whether it be print or electronic. But we're going to have him right here in the smack dab in the middle of it here in Nevada County to have access to.
Right, because we are a county of innovation. So that's, again, folks, the job fair is on the 22nd at the Grass Valley Veterans Memorial Building, and you can come out and meet Dave Murray, one of the foremost innovators and authors in our country. Now, we also talked a little bit about the kind of thing we do might be able to help what you do. I mean, because we want to cover events in this county, and we would like to be doing webinars and that kind of thing. Do you think there's a fit here?
Absolutely. For us, our future is, yes, we're a growing company, and we are continuously looking at how to make our programs better, not just in the volumes of the 70-plus shows, but, our world is changing. For our industry, I attended a conference a few months back, the largest conference in the world on biotechnology. And actually, I learned so much about my industry. But the moral compass that I found within this industry is that I heard somebody speaking to the fact that his son came to him just weeks before me hearing him. But his son came to him and said, "Dad, what's polio?" And to me, that statement was just profound because, I personally grew up in a time period where polio wasn't a serious concern, but I remember it was still fresh enough in my parents' minds that it was a huge concern across this planet. And within one generation, we're now at the point of saying, what's polio? Right. Biotechnology is our greatest hope on our planet for having our kids or our grandkids saying, Dad, what's cancer? Dad, what's diabetes? What's malaria? Right. Biotechnology, truthfully, is our best and most appropriate answer. Right. And we have a small slice of that. Do we want to do the very best we can? Absolutely. Using technology to do that? Yeah. Our eyes are open. We want to look at anything we can to do our job better.
Right. And I think it's a great exemplar. Actually, I mean, Jonas Salk is sort of the best example of what you're talking about. I mean, a Californian, a guy who did a lot of his work down in San Diego and with UC, and look what he did. A single man. And the same thing with Watson and Crick. That I forget which one of them, but was at Caltech for a while. In doing the DNA research that is now commonplace for us in every part of our life. It's interesting that we talked. I had on our show recently George Rebane, who's a physicist, and George is very much into the singularity, that point at which computers will attain human pure intelligence, and we would be able to say, yes, these computers are really our our peer. And his vision is really interesting because a lot of people don't like that. They get scared of the fact, the machines are taking over. And actually, he says, no, that's not the way it's going to be. There'll be a partnership, and we can see it already. I just read that in England, just a couple of months ago, they released a new little nanobot into the bloodstream that regulates blood pressure. So this little machine runs through the body and reports back to the doctor. It's almost like, you take your car and you plug it in to see what's working, what's not. And, I think biotechnology, it just as you said, is really going to be the crux of health of the future. If we can, monitor what we do and, have the technical help to get it done, and we're going to be living longer and healthier lives.
Yeah, I mean, the potential that we have is, how much better can our lives be if we're not spending our time either living with or dealing with the fear of some of these major serious illnesses that take our friends and our family.
Right. And so, anything that we can do to help develop the field helps all of us. It's one of those fields. I was also reading recently that this is going to be the century of the brain exploration. That the 20th century was the exploration of space and physics and outside stuff, and the 21st century is going to all be about inward looking. And biotechnology is at the very heart of exploration of the brain, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Neuroscience. And what's very amazing is many of these universities, when I first started, I was struck by, you walk up to a 20-story building, and it's, the Center for Cancer Research, and you go in, and there are hundreds of people doing little things every day that are leading to major discoveries, and that I don't think the common, not the common person, but a person that doesn't travel to universities often sees how many people are doing this day in and day out, and it's very powerful to see that happening. And you walk into the whole wing dedicated to diabetes, breast cancer, all these specific things, and it's I think, like Ed mentioned, our little slice, and if we can tie in NCTV with helping that, it all forwards kind of discovery together, and creating webinars, creating kind of podcasts or live casts of events, things like that.
Right. I think we've got to do a better job of capturing the brilliance of our scientists and researchers and make them more available.
And at the risk of, quite frankly, being cheesy here, it's been this event that has brought NCTV and biotechnology calendar a little closer. Now, next Thursday, what more little combinations, connections can we make in our county that can help make changes for the rest of us around us?
Right. And it would be great to make our county the center of this new communication style, because that's what you're about. It's matching up, finding the best communicators and finding the audiences that are impacted by those. So let me ask you a question. How do you market? How do these events take place? I mean, are they? Do the companies approach you, or do the universities approach you? I mean, now you have sort of annual events, right? I mean, you manage things that happen on a regular basis.
Absolutely. In your question, there were several answers, and all of them have been true. Sometimes the universities themselves bring that out. I mean, typically right now, in order for a scientist who, in April, sounded quite eloquently about the hundreds of researchers that are in these little laboratories doing that repetitive work on a day-to-day basis. Well, when they're doing that work and somebody wants to tell them about a new piece of equipment or a new product that can help make their work better, quite frankly, they're looking at it as a bit of an interruption when they get the knock on the lab door. We're providing an environment to make it easy for both sides to get together. So sometimes it's the university that asks us to come out and do that. Sometimes it's the corporation that does. But sometimes it's the people that are trying to talk to the scientist that are saying, look, can you make it a little easier so that we can get them? And sometimes, quite frankly, it's just us saying, there's a void. Right. So we'll take any of those opportunities to see if we can make something work out of it.
Right. And there is a growing relationship in America between universities, especially at the graduate school level and industry, because it's a natural. I mean, we can't. UC's budget is getting hit pretty hard, and if we don't have partnerships with industry, we're not going to be able to train tomorrow's scientists. I mean, that's just a fact.
Absolutely. I mean, we recognize all of the innovation that we see in our day-to-day life right now because of NASA, because of the moon programs, or going to the moon programs. Even more profound and distinct into our daily lives are the changes that we realize that we don't realize came from those research programs and facilities, et cetera. So, yeah, absolutely. There's more coming every day.
We know that some interesting things, for example, in terms of doing surgery in a zero weightless state. I know there's innovations there where you can do amazing kinds of surgery that you can't do when you're facing gravity. Have you seen any of that technology?
I haven't seen the surgery part of it, but there are definitely, we are like at the brink, kind of on the beginning in what they call more basic science. So they're researching what probably happens to the cells in a zero weight, kind of weightless environment.
Exactly.
And then you'll see most of the universities are connected right up next to a hospital, and then that's where, so we're kind of on the little outside of the hospital, but I would love to. I have not myself.
Right, and I think that's to your point. Science is interactive, and you really can't, because it's so innovative. Sometimes you learn something that you expected, and sometimes you don't. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have the wherewithal to test stuff out, to be innovative. I mean, I used to work, as I think I mentioned to you, with Warren Bennis, who's a Harvard professor on innovation at Skunkworks, and he talks about all of the wonderful scientific advancements that have been made, sort of almost by a fluke or a genius working in the lab, or teams that are able to go beyond the product line. I think that's one of the issues that we have in America today, is not to knock marketers, but salespeople like to sell what's there, and in terms of where money goes, America's always been known as one that's willing to risk. The last thing you want to cut in a bad economy is your research and development.
Absolutely. I mean, some of our greatest innovations in our society today have come from mistakes.
Yeah.
Some of our greatest innovation have come from top-down innovation. Where the CEO of a company says to his people, you know what, I need you to fix this problem. Our researchers on the science level are great examples of bottom-up innovation, where they're just trying things. What happens if we do this?
Yeah.
And so we have no idea where things are coming from. But if we're not trying to change, we're not changing.
Yeah. When I had the pleasure when I was at UCLA in my undergraduate world to work in a microbiology lab. For a couple of years on an NSF grant, and that was great fun. And the professor I worked under, who was a bacteriologist, I used to ask him, Dr. Neal, why are we doing this? And he'd say, well, I get this notion that so-and-so is going to happen, and we won't know until we go out and do trials, And it's interesting how that mentality works. And if you don't have the Dr. Nealichs of the world free to work in that research capacity at a university, you're just not going to be a world leader. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Mm-hmm. So I think, what service you guys provide is a really necessary one, where those scientists who may be a little isolated from time to time and not aware of the changes somebody else is, and if you don't have the best technology, you're not going to be able to innovate.
Exactly.
Wow, what a great segue. You couldn't have said it. That's exactly why we were trying to put Dave Murray and Borrowing Brilliance, taking it to the science through the biotechnology. But here we are. We found something a little off our intended course, and now we're trying to bring that to our county. And, we have no way to predict what our event that we're going to do next week, if it affects change, or what those changes can be for hopefully some of our business owners here and some of our people looking to get back into the workforce.
Right. So, now, do you have any events that you manage that are outside of the United States, or is it only American?
All American at this time.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so you mentioned UCLA and San
there is
Diego.
quite
What are they like? What are those events like?
They are, they're full of energy. I mean, people come out of buildings in droves. So you'll see people coming out. It's fun, it's social, but it's very serious. People come to see the speakers, different seminars, as well as see, I mean, it'd be like you going to a technology, NAB or something like
Right.
that. It's just like Disneyland.
It's Disneyland.
Yeah,
for
it's
scientists.
Disneyland. And people are so excited. But you see very serious, some people can't talk about what they're researching. It's very secretive. And you'll see some, very in-depth conversations. But it's a fun event. It's a social event. It's a serious event. And people love, what we do and come
Now,
back
are these
year
events,
after year.
Do they have like a special topic, or is it just bioscience in general in various areas?
All life sciences, and then usually the seminars have specific topics related to what a certain group is doing on campus, as well as what a certain company, if they have something they want to share that's going to make research faster, improved, etc. That's usually what's covered. So it's very open.
So do you have, what's the biggest surprise that you've seen? I mean, you have been working very long at the company, so you haven't seen too many of these, but do you have an example of like an aha moment?
I'm going to leave that for you, April.
An aha moment.
Like, I didn't know that.
Oh, those happen on
All the
almost,
time.
literally. So frequently, they're almost to the point where they become commonplace at our shows, because the technology that we were talking about earlier is advancing so quickly that if even at a show that we do twice a year, that scientist, they may come to see that show every 6 months and yet still have, wow, I had no idea this change is happening in this equipment or in this.
And a lot of it is taking place in the realm of digital media, because you've got these situations now where a physician who might be in New York is collaborating with a world famous surgeon in L.A. and the surgeon is operating a motion capture sensors that he actually is running the robot in New York that's doing the operations. And amazing. And where would we have been, without that?
I met with a company last week that typically a pathologist, for example, looks at a slide, and if they need to determine what's going on in a brain, for example, they take dozens and dozens of these little slides and make their determination, and they put these pictures together until they get a bigger picture, and they can truly make this. And this can take weeks for a scientist to do. Well, there's a piece of equipment that we haven't even started to present at our shows yet, but it's now available. The technology is now available, where that scientist can take a picture that's 4 inches by 6 inches in one single shot and cut weeks of work down to a few minutes.
Right.
To where that doctor can now react and those scientists can now react in a significantly quicker way. Therefore, the science improves exponentially quickly.
Right.
Those aha moments haven't even happened yet and are going to.
And there's lots of cases where you can do the kind of collaboration cross country, cross continent, where people are online, looking at the same MRI or slide, and you're able to put specialists together in a way we couldn't possibly do before. And these are all innovations that, somebody had to be the first one out the door on, somebody had to take the risk to do.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned to you off camera, we've got, some of the companies up here, Telestream, Ensemble. We have partnership with Ensemble that makes a wonderful device that we just bought called the Vito, which I was telling you about, which has fantastic capacity to take a web compressed, media, which like a Skype image, that looks terrible. You wouldn't want to broadcast that. It's jittery and it's unclear. And it builds it back, the frames back, so that you have a broadcast quality signal, and which is a great innovation for us in our field, because we're now going to be able to broadcast stuff from the web that is broadcast quality, will rival high definition that people are used to seeing. Dave Woods, who's the head of Ensemble, did a presentation on this machine that just blew me away. He had 3 people were interacting with him, and I thought this was B-roll that they had shot before, and it turns out that they were being Skyped in, and this stuff looked like the guy was in your living room. It was just amazing.
And since we had that conversation about that, my thought and where my brain ran with that was, wait a second, what if now our scientists can now effectively communicate instantaneously with a higher level of quality with their work, not just the conversation.
Right. And mobile devices through the internet.
Yeah.
I mean,
now
this
we
improves,
can potentially connect our labs around the world.
Right.
Right.
This improves the ability for people to collaborate, at a rate, And I know that, I have a board member who's a scientist who's an engineer at AJA. They're one of the great innovators. John Apt is one of the great innovators of the world in developing stuff. He lives right here, in the county. AJA is just doing gangbuster work on new products. And it's very exciting to be in that kind of milieu. You don't, it's not the stodgy, just we're going to rely on the old business model. I mean, these guys are out there inventing new businesses,
Right.
Because, they just understand what the gaps are, like you said. What's the next horizon? What's the new product? We can solve that. I mean, it's an amazing kind of thing. But you can't do it if you don't build a field. And you can't build a field if you don't have these kind of get-togethers. So it's a way of helping people individually and companies at the same time. So I want to reiterate to folks that we're talking about Job Fair and Job Development Forum that's going to take place on the 22nd of September right here in Grass Valley at the Veterans Memorial. And Ed and April are with Biotechnology Calendar Inc. and BCI Events. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Are bringing this to you. So come on down and meet Dave Murray when he's here. The event time is going to be from 12 noon through. The Job Fair and Development Forum are going to be through 5, and then Dave Murray's going to talk at 6. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, the Evening of Innovation will be from 5:30 to 7:30ish.
What's going to happen? Let's talk a little bit more about the Evening of Innovation. Could people actually come and ask questions?
Absolutely. And by the way, there's going to be a couple other speakers. We're Robert Trent from Sierra Commons. They're a business igniter. Yep. The business igniter. We're giving him a chance to speak to our business owners. We have a representative from the USDA Department of Rural Development coming, and they're both going to be speaking prior to Dave speaking. And we're going to make the whole room available in a mixture format before and after the speakers for questions and conversations, and hopefully, again, to create these catalyst-type conversations.
Right, and and Dave's applications are not just to biotechnology. It's across the board. If you're running a company that is based on innovation and change, I mean, he's the guy to guide you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to show, I guess to outline the diversity of this is, we're talking to him about the biotechnology side. But some of his clients are, as I said, the U.S. Navy. He works with the new crop of admirals on an annual basis to work with them on innovation. He works with a giant as far as company structure size, energy. Green energy company. He works with one of our countries and world's leader in healthcare providing. The range of customers is diverse. I believe the message is diverse enough that literally every business owner in our community can benefit in some way.
Do you remember from Borrowing Brilliance, what are some of those steps? I mean, do you remember enough to...
Oh, absolutely. The first is, or one of the steps, for example, is identify the problem. Make sure you clearly know what the problem is you're trying to solve. And then the first one that I realized that I maybe sometimes do on my own, but I need to put a discipline to it to make it, who else has similar problems within my industry? Okay? And then who has a similar problem outside of my industry? And when you ask yourself that question, that's where you're really going to be surprised at that answer, because you tend to only think, you spend your time thinking of yourself and your competition within your industry. Right. But there are going to be circumstances outside of your wheel, if you will, your wheelhouse, where that problem exists. What else have other industries done to solve them? What other industries? He used an example, for example, of Darwin. Darwin's background was geology. And he had family, and I'm paraphrasing this story off the cuff, a family that were in finance. He borrowed ideas from finance, he borrowed ideas from geology, and he borrowed ideas from 2 other venues, I believe. And that's where he was able to create his own theories from. It wasn't just from simply looking from his own standpoint. Right. He had to take from other areas.
I know that he was, I read Origin of Species, I think it's the Evolution Bible, and, he was studying Mendel's, peas and, how we, things occur. But then I know he started, the innovation was, I think, on adaptation, and how quickly can you adapt, does something adapt in a natural universe? And, he learned from some other disciplines that, if you apply that analysis to biology, maybe we have this thing called evolution occurring,
Absolutely. And I think April agrees with me on this, I hope, is that the one thing that Dave has the ability to do is put these 6 steps and examples in terms that we're all going to, we don't have to be the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar corporation to understand. We don't have to have, 17 letters behind our name in order to make these principles clear in our own mind.
Right. And I think that's what, borrowing brilliance. You something that's worked in another field, you learn how to adapt and borrow it and use it in your own field. You don't have to reinvent the wheel every time out. And I think people who are in more routine businesses don't get how important it is for cross-fertilization to take place in innovation-driven industries like bioscience or like our industry in media and engineering. It lives and breathes on the ability of people to collaborate. And so, doing this kind of work is really, really important. So, where are you guys headed, do you think? Do you think the company is BCI and Biotechnology Calendar, is there anything new cooking that you can let us know?
Absolutely. For one, we are looking at more venues. We are potentially, and a little farther down the road, answer your question about U.S.-based, there's a potential to grow outside of our borders. But I believe that the greatest significant change that we're going to make is by using technology to leverage ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Right. And how about doing, working with another nonprofit? We were working at Drexel University down in Sacramento, and they've got this fantastic building where they have the ability to, and they've got smart boards, and they've got the ability to be online with 16 people that can Skype in from various places in one center, so you can be talking around a table, with folks from around the world. That's the future of collaboration. I think is getting people out of their laboratories, out of their own little island, and working with other people. Whether because in the old days, you get on an airplane, but we don't have money to do that anymore. That's kind of a 20th century.
Even more so than the money is even if we did, those typical things that we used to do business 30 years ago, or 40, or whatever the example might be. The big convention where we're all going to share ideas is next year.
Right. What happens in the meantime?
Exactly.
Yeah. What are we missing by not having that next week?
Yeah.
What lost opportunities do we have? Right. What can we gain?
Right. Well, we certainly hope we can, we can add to the field, because that's part of our business plan is to produce and, to work on developing webinars and as well, doing job training here in Nevada County in digital technology. So, our companies will have a a constant talent pool that's developed here. One of my frustrations is we don't have a single class being taught at Sierra in digital media right now. It's amazing. But, it's hard for them to conceive of, our field is limited by the fact that the Department of Labor statistics only get done every 10 years. And so in the media business, that's an eternity, that's an epoch, So things like if you're an animator or you're a web designer, you don't get captured by the Department of Labor statistics. You can't aggregate our digital media industry. So it's hard for me, to go to Stephanie and say, we need 3 classes in digital media, and she says, where are the jobs, So they're here, here, and here, It's a new world, and a new world of, overlap. And I think that's part of what the exciting part is,
We're in a fascinating age. I mean, we're in an age where, like you said, 10 years is an infinite amount of time in technology. But 10 years, for example, in the biotechnology industry, well, that's the average time to take to get a drug to the street, to cure anything, or to fix a symptom, or to handle, so that's a reasonable period of time. And then there's going to be times where, 10 years is an instant and can be changed. We're at a time where we have to develop and mold the balance and find the balances all the time.
Yeah, and I love the mapping of the Genome Project, because we didn't really know where the heck that was going to lead us. We just knew we had to do it. Well, we are about out of time, unfortunately. I want to remind people we've been talking about the Job Fair Development Forum, September 22nd, right here in Grass Valley. I want to thank my guests, Ed Bodette and April Zeman-Lowe, and from BCI. That's about all we have time for this evening. I want to remind people that we're going to start continuing to go on back to our TBI series. And, that's very exciting for us to bring new information to Nevada County. I want to thank the crew, who does a wonderful job, and my co-producer, Harley the Pug, the only pug producer in the world. So that's all we have time for. And until next time, this is Paul Minicucci saying bye-bye.
The Center for the Arts in downtown Grass Valley is a multi-use space. We went to the One Stop in search for a new employee, someone who could help us with the facilities and work directly with our